Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. And today I'm joined by two correspondents who are a lot happier than the four I had on the show last week. Let me firstly introduce you to our Brentford correspondent, fresh off of a big West London derby victory. Tom Med, how are you, Tom?
Good. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I think it's the first time I've been on where I feel incredibly smug. So, not bad at all.
We'll come back to your smugness, mate. And our West Ham United correspondent, Chris Stone's in the house. How are you, Chris?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. So
Good
happy
man.
after the win.
Yes. A good but expected win for West Ham on Sunday as well.
Hmm.
Tom, I'll start with you because I cut you off because you wanted to ask a question before it even started recording. I was like, stop. So you can ask Chris the question. Go on, you're the host, mate.
Okay. I keep seeing like all the posts. I think it was like Merson's one today on Sky Sports, and it's like they're talking about obviously Tottenham, Arsenal, United, who are below West Ham at the moment, obviously with a game in hand, about the top four contenders. But everyone seems to have just written off West Ham, and I don't really get it because, I mean, West Ham for me have been sort of one of the best teams this year and actually pretty consistent. And the other three, sorry, James, have been not as consistent. So I just want to see what Chris thought, really.
Yeah, 5 wins in 6. I'm shitting myself. Go on, Chris, off you go, mate.
No, I mean, jokes apart, I think it's fair in a way. There's two parts to it. I think there's you see that I remember at the time when we were in the top four or we're top five or something, there was a thing someone put up whether it's Sky Sports or Match of the Day, but they only showed the top four or the top three, whatever it was, and then we weren't in that bit. But then when we're not in it, then they show more teams and that kind of thing. So there's a little bit, you get a few of those conspiracy theories, but in reality, I don't think we are mathematically in the top four race, but I don't think we are for the reasons of some of our fixtures. We've got to play, a few of the other teams like City. We've got to play Chelsea. One's away, one's at home. We've got to play Arsenal as well. Although it might not be a bad game actually, Arsenal after their last result. But I think, to be fair, with Tottenham, with Arsenal especially, they're both playing pretty well at the moment in general. And they've not got any other distractions like Europe. I know Man United are up there, but I guess they're probably the least consistent of the three at the moment. Spurs seem to be starting to put a couple of back-to-back wins together. So
do you not feel like, though, Chris, that Tottenham and I'll try and take my Tottenham hat off here for a moment, Tottenham could just as quickly have a couple of shockers in a row and it's on?
Yeah,
because,
I think so.
Because Tom's right to say in terms of actually your team's been consistent kind of all the way throughout, whereas Tottenham and Arsenal have actually both had some really shit periods this season. Obviously, Arsenal right at the start, Tottenham basically kind of obviously prior to Conte coming in, and then actually dipped again quite badly sort of January, February as well. Whereas you haven't had an alarming dip. I always say to Suj, no one has an easy game against West Ham. Although I think the game we had against you recently was easier than I expected, but that was part because of Seville, which we'll come back on to.
Yeah.
Is there that as well, the European involvement?
There's that. I think also at the time, in the last sort of couple of weeks, obviously Tottenham made up one of the games, but Arsenal are going to be making up a game or two. But they had games in hand. So it's that kind of thing where, okay, they're 6 points behind, but they've got 4 games in hand. Obviously, they've got to win all those games in hand. Is a factor, but I think the Europe aspect, our thin squads. I wouldn't say things are against us because it's how we've been managing all season, but there's things in favour to the other teams. I think it's more theirs to lose than us to win. But that said, if they do muck up, then if we keep going and we keep picking up results, it's not impossible, but I don't think it's probably realistic. I'm not expecting it. If I'm honest, I wouldn't. Obviously, yes, I'd be disappointed not to finish in the top 4, but in the overall scheme of things, I wouldn't be where we are now in the season.
Is it? And this is difficult. Is it a disappointment to not finish in the top 4?
I wouldn't say disappointment. I mean, it's a goal, but I don't think it's a goal that you realistically have. That if you don't do it, you failed. We're not in the likes of Chelsea, Man United, that kind of. If it's one of those clubs, yes, it's seen as a failure. It's more of a bonus. I think we could have taken opportunities, but then that could be said of lots of teams throughout the season. We could have been in a better position. There's been games we should have we should have won, or we could have played better in, all those kind of things, and we could have had a few more, maybe 6 more points on the board that would make a massive difference. But I think I'd say we're the underdog. We're the 50-1 outsider in the Grand National at the moment.
I think the reality is this season, it's certainly not going to go to 2 points per game in terms of 4th place, which it never has done, but it's kind of near about. It's probably going to be a little bit less, might even 70 points, might even do it this year. Everyone's got regrets. All the teams challenging. Yours is some of these home results, isn't it? You look back at like drawing with Newcastle, losing at home to Leeds. You lost the corresponding fixture against Brentford earlier in the season. Those are the results, aren't they? I mean, you put them 8 points on the board. We're having a different conversation here, aren't we?
Exactly. It's the teams probably you would expect, probably the wrong word, hope to beat. I will, you will use the word expect. You do expect to win those games.
Southampton at home as well, you lost.
Yeah.
But then so did we. We lost at home to Southampton.
But I think, we've not played badly, but we've not been playing brilliantly for quite some time. But we've been getting the results, which has been good. I can't really complain. But it can all fizzle out. We could lose 4 games, finish 8th, go out of Europe next week, and it's all kind of a bit of a, the season ends on a bit of a downer. So, but I don't think Moyes will allow that to happen. I think he will keep them going as much as possible. But the crowd's a factor, because it was definitely a factor on Sunday. I was guilty of it. Everyone was guilty of it. You could feel it. Everyone was looking forward to that game on Thursday, and it was just kind of going through the motions a bit on Sunday. So there's that aspect.
Yeah, I want to come back to that actually in terms of atmosphere. I think it's a really good point you raised. Does that answer the question, Tom?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. How do you see it? The top 4 race. I mean, do you obviously think West Ham's still involved then?
I think it's more the fact that people seem to be ruling them out very quickly. And I mean, at the start of the season, everyone seems to forget they were top of the table at one point, weren't they? And they're playing incredible good football. I mean, Bowen's back to fitness now, and I mean, they're just as close in it. I mean, the fact that no one's talking about West Ham, but people are talking about United, who looked absolutely disastrous, I thought, on the weekend. That's more reason why I think West Ham's being sort of kicked to the gutter a little bit when people are talking about United. I know they've got a lot of expensive players, but a lot of expensive players aren't playing very well. Arsenal lost 3-0 to Palace, and Spurs can be very Spursy, although they do look like the best team at the moment.
I think if we look at West Ham are 3 points behind Arsenal, let's use Arsenal at the moment. The 3 points behind Arsenal played 2 games more. So Arsenal have got 9 games to go. If Arsenal win 5 of the 9 left, that will put them on 69 points. West Ham can only get to 72. I think that's why West Ham are probably being ruled out. I think you're right to say West Ham are not out of it. I think West Ham probably would need to win 6 or 7 left. So that means you got to beat Arsenal at home, I would say, Chris, and you've got to win either at Stamford Bridge or beat Man City at home and win all the other games, including winning at Brentford at the weekend.
I'd probably say, as a minimum, you'd 4 games plus the Arsenal game. You'd need to get wins in those. Then you're relying on the other teams sort of slipping up. It's how much they do that, really.
That's it as well. You're not just chasing one horse, are you?
No,
I was saying it to a Chelsea fan.
Harder.
I was saying it to a Chelsea fan a couple of weeks ago, like 8 points behind us. I was like, if you're chasing one, you never know. But City and Liverpool aren't both going to fall over themselves completely. But they fell over you at the weekend, Tom. Chelsea. Where did that come from, mate?
I wish I could tell you. Yeah, what a ridiculous result. They were so they played. I mean, Chelsea had a bad game, but we had a great game, and I think we got them at the right time. But I mean, that's probably up there with, if not the best game in our history to date. Obviously, being a championship side last year and being the first time in the Prem this year, it was always going to be a game this year that was going to be up there. And I mean, comparing that to maybe
that biggest result in history.
I think. I mean, compared to, it sort of puts us at. I mean, I know it's a one-off game and things like that, but it's sort of. I think a lot of teams are getting to the point where, and because we'd lost so many games in a row, they were like, "Oh, it's just another championship team that's sort of going to make it through this year, but then probably go down next year." But to actually get a result against, I mean, what a 3-0 draw with Liverpool earlier in the season, I think we performed pretty well against both games against Man City this year, and then to stick 4 past Chelsea and be the only second team this year that have beaten Chelsea at home, sort of puts a sort of stick in the ground and says, we're here and we're not going anywhere anytime soon, sort of thing, and we can produce results. And our players aren't championship players there. So
you'd rank it higher, and I realise obviously it's local, it's a rivalry as well.
Yeah.
You'd rank it higher than the playoff final win,
probably at the moment because it's fresh.
But ask me again in 6 months.
Ask me in a few months.
Because without the playoff win, you don't get the Chelsea win, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So
it all correlates.
But it was massive. I mean, like all you have to do is go through. I think all you have to do is go through. I mean, my social media was disgusting. I mean, I apologise to absolutely no one for how bad it was on the weekend.
We noticed.
But I mean, just go through like Brentford social media and like every single page and every single thing was. I mean, they're still talking about it. I mean, I'm sure they'll still be talking about it the next week. So
I think they'll be talking about it for years as Brentford fans. And listen, you have every right to as well. Do you think the feeling would be the same if you'd won 4-1 like that at Anfield or at Etihad, for example? Is this even better because of the closeness of the two teams? And obviously the first COTC you did with us at the start of the season was with Ted to preview the home game with Chelsea. And obviously from his perspective, there's no rivalry, and it's understandable. You not play each other in the top league, but you're around the corner from them, the bus stop in Hounslow, and have to hear it all the time, right?
Yeah,
so I mean, does that magnify the importance of the win as well?
I think it's the first time where next year, when Chelsea play Brentford, it will be a London derby, whereas this year it wasn't. This year it was sort of like a Championship side versus a Premiership side, whereas next year, hopefully, I mean, we're not there yet, but I mean, we're getting pretty close. Next year, hopefully. When they start talking about the game, it'll be, West London derby rather than just, it's Brentford versus Chelsea this weekend. So this year, I haven't seen it really as a derby, but I think after the game on the weekend and finally getting a win and it being as big as it was, I think next year will be a bit more,
spicy.
Yeah, spicy. That's the right
They
word.
might be a bit more up for it. No, I get that. Chris, does it register to you as a London derby?
I hadn't thought about it really.
I don't mean Chelsea and Brentford. I mean yourself.
No,
Brentford.
Yes, it's a funny one really because I suppose because they're not an established team. I don't know. You just don't think of it. It just doesn't. Yeah, you don't necessarily think of it as a London derby, but it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I went to the West Ham Brentford game earlier in the season, and it didn't feel like a sort of derby feel, if that made sense. It was just another game on the calendar, if that made sense. So
it's difficult when you're in an athletic stadium, to be fair, mate.
They haven't finished their shopping, that's probably why.
I think I would relate it to, obviously, Fulham were up for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think similar, it took a really long time to think Fulham is like a horrible fixture in the sense of it's a London derby, they're going to make a real game of it, where it's Fulham, it's nicey. And I get that. I think it does feel that way with yourselves a little bit. But that said, some of the weapons you bring with your armoury are very different to, I mean, that Fulham team with Zaha and stuff when it came up originally played really beautiful football, as does your team at the weekend, as shown by the goals. When I heard that you'd won 4-1, I'll be very honest, what went through my mind was, you've mugged them on set pieces. So I was really pleased to see that wasn't the case. You scored great goals, mate.
Yeah, they were. It was, I think the best way to describe it is I couldn't get to the game on the weekend. So I sat watching Soccer Saturday, and I think it was Merce doing the commentary for it, and it was like goal at the Brentford Stadium. It was like Rudiger scores. I was like, here we go. And then literally 2 minutes later, it was like goal at the Brentford Community Stadium. At Stamford Bridge, and it was like Brentford equalised. I was like, all right, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden it was like another goal, and it's like Brentford in the lead. And I was watching it with my dad, and it was just like we were celebrating like we were actually at the stadium, because it's like wasn't expected. We're not thinking it was going to, and the goals were, really, really good. I mean, the first 20 minutes, I think we had the best chances. Maybe 30 minutes.
Definitely.
We were all over them. And I don't really understand what happened. I don't know whether it was sort of Chelsea just didn't turn up at all, or they I think it might have even been a bit of complacency from them going, it's Brentford, they've been okay the last few games. They've beaten Norwich and Burnley in the last sort of 3, but then they got beat by Leicester last week.
They had real issues in the first 20 minutes to 30 minutes playing out from the back, even from goal kicks. You were going and pressing them so
Really,
high,
yeah.
basically trying to force them to go long from goal kicks, which obviously at that point, you got a few units back at centre half versus Havertz, obviously fancying yourselves to win the header. That was the tactical implication. Then obviously you changed to a back five, and it was a back five, I think it's fair to say, rather than a back three. It was very much a 5-3-2. And obviously in the middle of the pitch, you got the Danish magician, who was absolutely bang on it. And in Vitaly Janelt, you've got a bloke who Garth Crooks wants to put in his front three team of the week. I noticed, mate.
You saw my tweet.
I have seen it, yeah. Someone said that I tipped him up prior to playing Leicester. I said I thought he might be a cheeky one on free hit because it had registered with me that he's been the midfield runner. But I never predicted you were going to change system. So what do you think brought that on? Because we discussed the idea that we thought before that really nice run of fixtures you had, Newcastle, Norwich and Burnley, you'd go to a back four, and you did. But you said exactly what I'd thought. I hadn't seen the change back to a back five coming. So why do you think he did it? Is that an isolated incident just for Chelsea, do you think? Or does it now stick?
I think it's just for Chelsea because I think we've been better as a back four. I mean, the last few games have been, I'm not saying match of the day are particularly good when it comes to the stats, but they were saying, since Christian Eriksen's been in the team, we've scored so many more goals and we've got so many more points. And it's not because Christian Eriksen's been in the team exactly. I mean, he's obviously had an influence, but it's because we've changed to a back four. We've put three in the middle and we're playing with two wingers, which ultimately lets Toney do what he does. And as seen by his 5 goals in the last, I know 3 have been pens, but he's won 2 of them. It's allowed him to sort of free him up to do what he does, is get in the box and score goals rather than do the running work, which, as you saw on the Chelsea game, and Mbeumo literally did all of the running, all of the pressing, was phenomenal, I thought. And he did it all game, was brilliant. I think they moved to back five for the Chelsea game. I said on my podcast today, a little
you can sell it, Tom. You're here. I'll ask you to sell it at the end. So you might as well do it now.
So on my podcast on last week, the FPL Dummies podcast, I was saying to Cam that I think that Chelsea will play Lukaku against Brentford because Havertz is so small and we've literally got 3 massive centre backs.
Yeah.
I didn't see the change to going back to a 5, but it makes sense, I guess, because playing against Chelsea's back 3, although they played a 4 again on the weekend, didn't they?
Yeah.
It just allowed them a bit more space and it just seemed to work. So I think Frank just decided for the Chelsea game, the way that they'd set up, the way we would set up, that 5 would work better against them, which it obviously did. I think he'll change back to a 4 against West Ham.
Why do you think it will change back? Is that because West Ham are less of a possession team?
Honestly,
I don't mean that disrespectfully, by the way, Chris.
No, it's true.
I'm honestly not 100% sure, really, but I think we've been playing really well as a 4-3-3, and I think Canos obviously got dropped on the weekend, but he's been fantastic, I think, as left wing, moving from obviously right back to left wing.
Yeah.
Visser's obviously playing a lot, and he literally every time he gets on, he scores a goal. So it's only a matter of time, really, I think, till he gets a game. I guess Chelsea, the way they've been playing, they've just, I don't know whether it was the way they were going to set up, but I almost, when they set up with a 5 and I saw the team, I was like, is he playing for a 0-0 draw? Because Chelsea have been so good defensively this year. I think the change back to a 4 for West Ham and again, I guess no disrespect for Chris, but they're not defensively not as sound as Chelsea are meant to be. So we should be able to do more with the ball than what we should have done against Chelsea, I guess, on the weekend. I think it was, I mean, in all honesty, it was a bit of a freak result on the weekend. We played really well, but it was a bit of a freak result. And you look at Chelsea this year, they've conceded 23 goals all season, therefore, and 4 against us. I mean, it's a bit of a blip there, isn't it?
It's amazing when you think back to, I described it at the time when you lost 1-0 at home to Chelsea. The last 20 minutes I described as my favourite 20 minutes of the season at the time, because like willing you to score, as I obviously wanted Chelsea to drop points, but just anyway, even if I didn't, the way you bombarded them, and yet, as I said, Saturday wasn't like that in any way. I watched the whole game back. I can't recall a long throw of note or anything. Obviously, the fourth goal was scrapping. It's from a set piece. But the 3 goals you scored were brilliant counter-attacking goals. Inside, there's a lot of bad Chelsea play in there. But you took advantage of it. How big of a difference is Christian?
Massive, yeah. I mean, you saw his run for the second goal was incredible. I think he just gets everywhere. I mean, there was bits where he was back defending. He gets forward. Obviously, his passing is ridiculous. He put a ball. I think it's I don't know which game it was, but the cross for
Toney against Burnley.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking about. Yeah, that's the one. Just ridiculous. Like, it's just some of the passing he is able to do, and it's the little bit of world class in the squad which I think will make all of our other players slightly better. He just can pick out. I mean, some of the balls. I mean, he picked out a ball to Roslev on the right back against Chelsea, and it's just you wouldn't even spot that. Like, I don't understand.
By the way, you're underselling that because he broke away from Kante before he did that as well.
Yeah, I mean, just he is just incredible. I mean, I didn't expect him. I think I said earlier in the season when we did sign him and I was on, that if we get 75% of Christian Eriksen back, I'll be incredibly happy. I mean,
I think you've got more than that. We've
got 90, 95%, even 100% Christian Eriksen. He just looks like he's enjoying himself. He's there. He's enjoying the football. He's playing really well. Hopefully for a little bit longer than another 3 months. So,
well, you've already answered the follow-up question. Do you think you'll be there next year? Because the only problem is he's playing so well, mate, that everyone else is looking, aren't they?
I hope he does. I wouldn't hold anything against him if he doesn't. I mean, he's 30 years old, and he should be in what is the prime of his career. So I wouldn't hold it against him if he moves on. I hate all of the journalists. I mean, we all do anyway. But some of the journalists are saying like, "Oh, he should move from Brentford and go to a bigger club." It's quite disappointing because it's like, well, Brentford gave him the chance to be there.
Yep.
Now, as a Brentford fan, I wouldn't hold it against him because I think he should move on. But I hate hearing journalists say he should move to a bigger club because actually, I mean, Brentford's ambition is to be bigger than just a championship team up in the Prem. So, I mean, Christian Eriksen could be the start of making Brentford even bigger than what they are at the moment, potentially. That's obviously what we want it to be. But I'd love to see it. He's enjoying his football, but Thomas Frank's obviously made it incredibly clear that he wants him there. But what he's also said is that he's playing at the moment. He'll be there till the end of the summer, and then at the end of the summer, they'll make a decision.
I think, unfortunately, I mentioned football food chain. It's a bit like that you will not necessarily get picked off, but unfortunately your best players will get linked with going to big clubs. Chris has had it non-stop for a couple of years with Declan Rice. He's probably about to go through it with Jarrod Bowen. I go through it every year with Harry Kane as well. So I get that completely. So I'll ask Chris, do you reckon you'll have Rice and Bowen next year, Chris?
I think we'll have Rice pretty much.
Is that because West Ham have put a price tag on him that no one's going to pay, basically?
Well, unless United buy him for 80 million.
Well, 80 million's not going to do it, is it?
No, I can't remember that guy. The Man United's guy does all the podcast, Mark.
Goldbridge.
Goldbridge, yeah. So he was going on about it or something.
He's a funny kind of dude.
I know, but I'll be more worried about Bowen leaving than I would Rice, if I'm honest, because he hasn't got the same level of loyalty. He's not that he's disloyal by any means. I think he'd be there, but you don't know. I mean, if would Liverpool come in for him now? I don't know.
I guess maybe if Salah went, but then it's the same thing as almost like what Tom's saying with Eriksen, isn't it? West Ham give him the chance, to go and play in the Premier League.
I mean, he's doing well there. Obviously, I suppose it helps. He's going out with Danny Dyer's daughter, so that might keep him locked down in London for a bit longer.
Suj says we can never bring this up, so I'm pleased that you have.
Well, maybe because of the song, yeah. So it's not it's just not the most complimentary song. It's that basically you're complimenting when he scores, but you're kind of in a way slagging off his girlfriend. but yeah,
I'm sure old man's not too bothered when he's scoring goals for you.
No,
to be fair.
No.
How important is his return in seriousness?
It's massive. I think the thing with him is his goal was typical of how he's played this season. He's almost the kind of the fox in the box. He's getting in those positions all the time. He doesn't have loads and loads of shots. That's the thing. He's not having like 4 or 5 shots. So, Benrahma probably has more shots than him, stats wise. But he's got that maturity, and he gets in the positions. He's getting on the end of things. He goes for 90 minutes. He's such an important player for us, especially with the goals drying up a little bit for Antonio. He's probably he's our main player, really. I would say Bowen, because we haven't really got someone who can play in that position anywhere near as well.
Well, not that's going to get the volume of goals, I don't think, anyway. I mean, that's the next level stuff now, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's putting himself in sort of the top 8 goal scorers in the league, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's interesting you mentioned Benrahma. Obviously, as a player Tom will know a lot about as well. How have you taken to him, Chris? Obviously, been with you, I guess 15 months or so now. What's your feelings on him? Because he's by no means guaranteed first choice, is he? In fact, often he's been the one left out, hasn't he?
I think the trouble is, I think the type of player he is, he's not quite maybe Moyes' sort of player. Like when you compare him to, say, like Bowen always worked hard. He always tracked back. So he always has that. Benrahma will try and do it, but it's not his natural game. So you're kind of almost taking something away from him by trying to get him to do that. He wants to attack. You always feel like he's being held back in a way. Not maybe deliberately, but inhibited in how he would maybe want to play. I think he's better if he plays in the middle, because then he hasn't got so much of that responsibility of tracking back the fullback or helping out Cresswell or anyone else. So it does help him in that respect. He's had, if you look at what he's produced in terms of goals and assists, he's had a good season. But I don't look at him and think he's. There's kind of almost better players that you could, like Fornells, you would say is in a way is of more value, but he does have that creativity. We haven't really got outside of Lanzini maybe, and even he's not quite in that mould, that can just create something, but he hasn't quite developed that killer instinct. But whether or not he will continue next season, I don't know. It's up in the air, I think, with him.
Well, I mean, interestingly, one of the things we've spoken about a lot this season is Bowen's increased minutes. I think last season, I want to say, was the most substitute player in the league. It was like 70 minutes every week, wasn't it? And now Bowen's regularly playing 90 minutes or so. So it could well be that it takes a long time to adjust to play within a David Moyes team, in fairness, in terms of the work rate. But I'd like to ask, because obviously you've got this big game with Lyon Thursday night. If you're playing 4-2-3-1, and we assume Antonio and Bowen are in there, which other two do you want to play in the front four?
What, bearing in mind if we played Lyon or in an ideal world?
For Thursday night, massive game, Thursday night. It doesn't have to be Lyon, but that's the game coming. You pick your best team. Who's in it? Is it Fornells, Lanzini, Benrahma? Who would you want in there?
I would say Fornells, because of his he's got the better all-round game. I'll probably there's not a lot in it, I would say, between Benrahma and Lanzini.
I really thought you were going to throw a curveball there and say Masuaku, actually, James.
No, if I say that, then I'll actually get up and leave. You can kick me off the podcast if I recommend Masuaku in any conversation. But yeah, I don't think there's. I'd probably say Benrahma, because he has played in quite a few of the European games, and he's done okay. I think it depends. He's more creative, and I think it depends on the way the game's going, whether or not Lanzini would get on, which is kind of harsh on Lanzini, because he's equally been, he's been very good since he
looked back to his nearing his best that we saw sort of 3 years ago this season. Yeah, I
mean, he's got I suppose the only thing in probably Lanzini's favour is he gets the crowd going more, because they have that sort of maybe more of an affinity with him, so that might help. But I don't think that would maybe influence Moyes too much. I'd be happy with either. It wouldn't.
Yeah, I think
to be in there.
They're rotatable, aren't they? How do you think he's done, Tom? And how good is he from what you know?
I think he's brilliant. He's definitely a Premier League player. When he went to West Ham, for me, I was like, it's where he deserves to be, really. Obviously, we're still in the Championship anyway. but he is a player that definitely can get better. I think he'll get better as time goes on. I don't think, like you said, Jonas, I think as he gets more minutes, he'll start to play better. I think this season he's had a bit of. I mean, last season was tough because obviously he came in a little bit after the preseason. If I'm right, he sort of got thrown into it a little bit late. So this is sort of, I guess, his first proper year with you guys. I think he will. I think he's just going to take a bit more time. But I mean, if Bowen does go, then you've got a good replacement in there.
I certainly want him to succeed. He's not, you get some players you think, okay, but overrated, or they're not quite up to it.
They kick cats, or
yeah, something like that.
Sorry, carry on.
But yeah, no, I think with him, he wants to do well. I think it just. We say you want it to click for him, but he's not done badly. I'm not sure. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's something like 14 goals and assists. I think he's got.
Yeah, he had a great run at the start, didn't he? And then it just sort of just seemed to be getting more benched. I think he's one of those players that he obviously thrives off confidence. I mean, and you've seen obviously some of the tricks and the skills that he does. That, I mean, he absolutely loves it. But yeah, I think the more time he gets in the team, the better he'll get. Would be my opinion.
Do you think you're safe now, Tom?
Yeah. Oh, that's it's either going to come back and eat me horribly.
It's very instant. I mean, 33 points.
11 points clear.
Got to be, isn't you? And admittedly, we should say we're recording this prior to Burnley Everton, but you should be, shouldn't you?
If we're not, I mean, we've done something horribly wrong. I'll look back on this podcast and
I think you've lost every game left if you go down.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to, and other teams around us would have to win a lot. And there's a lot of 6-pointers down the bottom to go. I think I've had a look and seeing like who's playing who. We've got, I guess, ourselves. We've got Everton, Leeds, and Watford in our last 8 games. How many have we played now? 31.
Yes.
I should know that, really.
You're good. Yeah, really, you're on 31.
Yeah, we played 31 games, 33 points. I think one more win will do us. I think 36 points. I think you'd like to think we're pretty safe at 36 points, purely because the teams around us aren't getting results. I mean,
yeah, I mean that's what the Jack and Sean said when we did Burnley Everton last week. 36 points would almost definitely be enough for anyone.
Yeah,
was a general consensus. So yeah, one win or 3 draws, mate. Whatever.
I was going to say, none of those other teams have got an Eriksen now, have they? That's probably going to be a big factor.
Well, none of. Yeah. I don't know if any of them have got an Ivan Toney either. To be fair,
no, that's true.
Goalkeeper's made a big difference as well, hasn't he, Tom?
Huge.
When you think back on that bad run,
I mean, when you look at the bad run, you look how many goals we conceded, and you look now and seeing how many goals we're conceding, and how many saves Raya's making. Spanish international David Raya.
He played for Spain last week, didn't he?
Yep. And well deserved as well. I mean, he's been phenomenal. He made
What's happened to Spain, Brentford and Brighton goalkeepers? What's going on here?
De Gea in the mud. I love it. He made 7 saves against Chelsea. He conceded and got a 4-pointer on FPL. I mean, if we're talking FPL wise, which is massive. I think I'm even considering getting him back in my team, even though they've got no doubles left.
We'll come back to FPL because
okay.
I want to come. I know you're going to want to talk about it, and please sell the Brentford players because this is going to take some doing for the rest of the season. But Chris, before we do a bit of FPL, I've got to ask you about Seville and the European games. I take it you were at the Seville game.
Yes. Yeah.
How good was the atmosphere? I mean, Suj was buzzing about it. Everybody I've spoken to is a West Ham fan, like probably best night you've probably had at the new stadium so far. How good was it? And it's interesting you mentioned, we'll come on to it, the potential impact that might be having on the atmosphere for the league games at the moment.
I mean, it's one of, if not the best atmospheres, I think, that I've had there. There's been a few good games this season. I remember the Leicester game being a good atmosphere. That was one of the very early home games, and it was obviously under the lights, all that kind of thing. But it was a really, really good atmosphere. I mean, everyone was up for it. The crowds were. I think there was just that buzz even before the game had even started. Outside in the the bars and things around the actual, what it's like. You've just got the sort of pop-up bars there, and yeah, everyone was just looking forward to this game. There was a lot to play for in it. don't think anyone expected anything, but we knew that we could give them a game. I wouldn't say I thought we could win or anything like that. It wasn't impossible, but it was going to be tough. I knew it was going to go extra time because it meant that I wasn't going to get my last train. So
You said to me, yeah.
It cost me 40 quid in a cab. So it was either one of them. I thought, if I leave and they win, I'm screwed. And if I don't,
No.
You can't leave. You can't. I would
I'd
never.
have paid 400 quid for that cab,
Yeah.
mate. You don't walk out of the football. No,
I couldn't. I just
that.
couldn't. So I thought I've got to stay, and then it was obviously well worth it. But it was a really good atmosphere. I mean, it was a bit more charged up, and I think they definitely helped the team. Seville played well. Don't get me wrong. They were tough. Yeah, they were tough to get the ball off. I think that's the difference when you see their centre backs play and then you see Craig Dawson play. That's where you see the difference.
And then you wonder how you're doing it. No, listen, credit to you, mate. It's a great result for the club. You've now got this really exciting tie with Lyon to come. Do you give yourself real hope in the competition?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be a tough side. I think it's a very different game to.
It's almost
Seville.
dangerous because this looks easier on paper than Seville.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at
danger.
I agree. I think they're going to be more of a threat going forward than Seville. Not that Seville weren't, but I think they will. They've got some players. They've got Dembele, so obviously played at Celtic.
They've got Tanguy Ndombele as well, mate.
Well, this could be a bad week.
I keep hearing has turned into a world beater again over the last 2 months. We'll see.
Tottenham could end up mucking up our season, couldn't they? They could end up Eriksen on Sunday or a weekend rather, and then obviously in whatever his name is.
I doubt it, Chris. As you know, we get battered everywhere we go as the sun goes, right? It's interesting though in terms of I think you got a great chance, and as I said to Serge, like you want to win and you want to play Barcelona. Don't be having the fisticuffs with Frankfurt. You want to play Barcelona, have the tie, and
definitely.
If you beat Barcelona in the European semi-final, mate, I promise you, it'll be the greatest night of your life. Till maybe you win the final. That's what you want. You want the glory like what you've just had with Seville, another one of them. So you want the big tie. I think you've got a great chance of doing well in the competition. Obviously, the draw's not worked out in the sense that Barcelona have improved massively over the last couple of months. Would obviously be tough, but I bet they don't play anyone in La Liga like West Ham. So you'd have a chance. But I'd want to touch on the atmosphere a little bit. You're saying it was a bit flat on Sunday, yeah?
Yeah. I think the crowd, the players, it was a classic case of, and I don't think it was necessarily conscious, but it was like, okay, we've got to play this game, but we're really looking forward to the game on Thursday. And it was just one of those. Even where I sort of sit in the lower, there's usually a bit of noise coming from there and sort of a side section. And even that, they was just everyone was struggling just to have the kind of impetus to bother.
Can I be honest with you, mate? It's not even a slight on you because I experienced the same thing when Tottenham got back into Europe for the first time in a while. It was like that. It was like very briefly for a couple of years. The Thursday games were, and it was like the Sunday league games was the nuisance. And I spoke to Suj about that. I thought the atmosphere. You always bring an atmosphere to White Hart Lane, but it was like a big come down after Seville having the Tottenham game, which we always joke is like your cup final and stuff. And it was a bit like, well, where are you? And I think to go back to Tom's original question about why you're getting kind of ruled out of top four, I feel like you're ruling yourself out of it a little bit in the sense that it does feel like there's this magical European thing going on. Fourth doesn't feel realistic, but there's the real glory at the side there with the European games right now.
I think it's that thing, isn't it? If you can win a trophy, that's especially for a couple like us who haven't won since 1980, unless you count the Intertoto Cup.
And no one's counting that, mate. Not even Newcastle fans count the Intertoto, mate.
I think it's the only trophy that's smaller than the Ashes. I think that one. But it is. You are so focused on that. And I don't think it's even deliberate. It doesn't matter how hard you try. The closer it gets, the less the focus is on the league.
Yeah, get that completely. Who's the West Ham teams in your FPL at the moment, Chris? Or the West Ham players, sorry.
I haven't got anyone at the moment. It's just, I don't know. So at the moment, you've got all these double game weeks. Bowen was probably the only one I would have had. I had him before he got injured.
The next two are interesting, aren't they, for him, I think? Brentford away and Burnley at home.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you take it in isolation, then okay, Bowen is that player because he's scored, I think it's 17, I think now, goals and assists in total.
His first highest scoring FPL player.
I think he's scored 9, so I think he's
or midfielder
above Antonio. Yeah, he's above Antonio in terms of goals. So on that basis, he's a shoo-in. But then who do you leave out? You've got Spurs playing. They've got a double game week. You've got Salah in there. You've got Arsenal.
Well,
and then
interestingly, it might
could get the 5th spot, I suppose, because the forwards aren't great. So I think you could. There's an argument even to say, do you need 2 forwards?
It might open up with if Arsenal have to change system because of the injuries and Saka ends up playing a more defensive role. There's a case to say to dive off, but then that's a really big call, particularly if you're running through. And I think you'd look at Bowen and go, I'd get him for 2 games and then judge it afterwards before you go to Chelsea. Arsenal got a double in that period as well. It'd be so difficult to shift from Saka to Bowen. I mean, it'd also be difficult to shift from Kulusevski to Bowen, unless you were probably doing something else that meant a chain results that was going to lead to Heung-min Son, for example.
Well, I'm stuck with Willock at the moment, so he's done absolutely nothing. So
but then they've got a nice double in 33.
Yeah,
and actually he got an assist at Tottenham at the weekend and had a decent headed chance in the second half as well. So
it's hard to leave out. I know you get trapped by doublers, but they've got. I'm not sure what Newcastle's games are, but I'm sure at least one of them is a home game, isn't it?
With next 3's at home, so it's Wolves at home this Friday night, Leicester and Palace at home in the double, and then they've got Norwich away in 34 as well when you go to Chelsea.
Yeah,
as Tom will tell you, that's an easy fixture. Don't worry about that.
5-0.
Is he the only one worth considering in seriousness? Because as we pointed out, the fixtures are tough. Like it's Chelsea, then it's Arsenal, 34, 35. We don't know yet if it's going to be 36 double. And I think we can come back to that potentially in terms of if it's a double, you'll have the worst team in the league and the best team in the league, possibly in Norwich away and Man City at home. Then you might blank 37. And then obviously it's Brighton last game. But I mean, if you blank 37 and I free hit that week, tempted to think about Bowen. He's so consistent, mate.
He's consistent. I mean, Benrahma's a little bit, he's in terms of output, he's not miles off, but it's the reliability of Bowen. You expect him to score, you expect him to do something in the game. It's not even getting assists much. You expect him to actually get a goal now. He gets in the positions every single week, and he's going to play the whole game. So he's the most reliable player. I mean, there's nothing to say that you could. I feel that Antonio's gonna sooner or later he just needs that goal. It seems to be. It's almost that. He's not playing badly. He's not playing.
No, I think he's doing a job for the team at the moment.
Yes.
I wonder if and I only watched the first half and I thought he did fine, but all the reports I heard was second half he did a great job for the team in terms of bringing people into play and stuff. But I was wondering watching the first half if actually he might be kind of running on empty a little bit in terms of fatigue, purely because we always kind of saddle him as this player that always gets injured. And actually he hasn't. You've managed him really well. But then because of that, it feels like this is the first time he's played a whole football season almost.
He doesn't look tired. I don't even think
we was hoping he was going to say he was, mate. The old legendary Suj comment of, yes, he's tired. He'll go and get 4 goals for you.
No, he's still got he did have a little bit of a drop, but he seems to have picked up. I wouldn't say he's obviously having a factor. He's playing more games than he's ever played.
Might be mental fatigue though, even if not physical.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, to be fair, in the game on Sunday, he didn't against Keane. He wasn't getting a lot of the decisions. There was and Godfrey as well. They were handling him in terms of they had his hand jumping up and hands on the shoulder, kind of pulling him down. And almost when he did get that booking in the first one, it didn't really show on match day, but from where I saw it, it looked more exaggerated. Like he almost overemphasised the fact he'd got fouled and went over to get the foul, and obviously it led to the booking.
Can't believe it. Typical West Ham. He's won the game, comes on, still complaining at the referee, completely overlooking that Aaron Cresswell committed GBH on Richarlison. I mean, what is this, mate? No,
got a man.
I take your points though on Antonio. I can't see me going back for him though, despite the
No, I don't.
dearth of
The
FPL
forwards
forwards.
the forwards are a poor option at the moment. They just when you look at them, they're just not returning in the same way. There's not many out there.
Tommy's gagging to jump in. You know that, mate.
It's if you get one who's got their spell. Obviously, you had Toney when he had that spell. Then, but it's getting them before that point, isn't it? Because as soon as you get them after that, like after that 1 or 2 games, it always feels like you've missed the boat.
Yeah,
go on, Tom. Tell everyone why you're not selling Ivan Toney.
Oh, I've had him all season, to be fair, so I can't really get rid of him now. But yeah, so the change of system to 4-3-3. I think I said it literally right at the start of the season. It just allows him to get in the box and stay in the box. He at the start of the season basically became the man that he did the sort of Harry Kane role from last year, maybe, where he basically was tasked with doing absolutely everything. Some of the passes he's put in have been brilliant this year, to be fair, for some of the several chances and most hit the crossbar or bar post with. But now, if we do move back to 4-3-3 again after the Chelsea game, which I think we will, he just allows him to sort of sit in the box and do what he does. I mean, yes, he scored 5 goals in those 2 games. Obviously, it was Burnley and Norwich, which isn't the best sort of comparison.
You'd be delighted with the assist. I know you obviously scored 4 goals, and it's disappointing if you owned that he didn't score. But you'd have taken the assist pre-game, wouldn't you, to get that at Stamford
Yeah,
Bridge?
well, I mean, I benched him.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, annoyingly. I just didn't think we'd get anything from it. I mean, that sort of shows why I thought that game was going to go.
I'll be honest. Some of the fixtures the teams had this last, I don't blame you, mate. Don't blame you at all for doing that.
There were some very nice fixtures. So yeah, I think for me, as Chris said, there's literally no forward you can pick at the moment.
I feel like really suddenly your fixtures don't look as bad as I thought they looked. Maybe because the Chelsea game's now gone. West Ham might be distracted by what's happening with Europe, falls in between the 2 legs. Watford 33 is okay. Tottenham 34, United 35 is difficult. Then you end with Southampton, Everton, Leeds. It's all right.
It's not bad at all. I mean, the only thing I think you steer away from with not getting Toney in is he doesn't have any doubles. But as you've seen with lots of people have thrown in for doubles recently, I mean, I don't want to talk too soon, but let's hope Weghorst doesn't get anything tonight.
Well, that's it. No, because a lot of people obviously, particularly those who didn't free here, I want to say Toney was the most bought player going into game week 30. I think unless people
third most in today is this week as well.
Is that right?
Third most in at the moment.
I worry about people. Anyway,
well, me too.
There's a lot will have obviously held. Perhaps benched him like you did last week. Now it's into West Ham. What next? Because it's Watford 33, which is a fine as a fixture, but there are a number of forwards in 33. I'm thinking Chris Wood, Breuer, Weghorst again, who have got doubles. What would you say genuinely? I know you won't sell, but what would you say to people?
I think I got burnt by it a few weeks ago. And obviously you go out and you chase the doubles. But for me, I think what I've learned this year, I guess if we take from the end of this, when I get to the end of the season, probably the thing I've learned is don't chase the doubles as much. I mean, I did a bit of stats on Weghorst the other day and he's been absolutely awful. He's produced nothing.
Do you own him?
No, I don't.
Okay, well said.
Yeah.
This is going to look right stupid when
he scores a hat-trick tonight. Yeah. Oh, sorry. In a few days' time. Absolutely. But currently, stats to date has been shocking. I mean, he's done absolutely. He scored 1 goal in the first game and got an assist against United, I think. And so I've just not been chasing as many double players. I think I benched Cancelo a few weeks ago for, I can't remember who it was. I meant Livramento when he had a double. I think Livramento ended with 1 point and Cancelo got 9 points, a clean sheet and 3 bonus, and he had 1 game. So, yeah, I think the 33 fixture is Watford. Watford have been better, I think, recently, actually. But, I mean, Watford don't have to... I mean, Watford can play really well. Toney can still score a goal against them. So, for me, the way he's playing at the moment, he looks really confident. And he's playing where he needs to be, which is up front.
There is a case to say that because that position, and I'm pretty sure someone is going to smash up in ownership between now and the end of the season. And I think because of the no doubles, it won't be someone like Toney, even if his returns are consistent and good. But there is a case, like we spoke about Timu Pukki last week as well. And you look at it and go, he's been all right for his price. And it's the same with Toney. admittedly, the problem is he's had that condensed period now with obviously the Burnley and Norwich games, which obviously has magnified the returns quite a lot. You look either side, certainly before, and you think, oh, just kind of a lot of twos in there and stuff. And that's what worries people, isn't it?
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, up until the change of system, he hasn't been scoring any goals. I mean, he scored. I think it was majority penalties. I think he'd had 1 goal from open play until.
It still was recently. During the 5 goals, mate. In fairness, 3 of them penalties.
But I think I saw a lot of people saying like, "Oh, Toney's just a pen merchant for that," but he actually won 2 of them as well, which means he's getting in the position to win the penalties.
So he's a pen merchant and a pen winner merchant.
Fine,
so now you're saying he's a cheat as well.
I don't care. I mean, yeah. I mean, you know what? If he wants to continue to dive to win penalties, it works for me. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, getting in the right position to get the pens as well. I mean, both of them were. I mean, one was a straight red, I think, took out last man, and one was
dive. We saw it.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah, dive. I'll stay on the other side of that. And
no, it wasn't. In fairness,
I mean, when we say that obviously forwards are bad, and we say how Antonio has been out of form and hasn't scored, he's still the second highest forwards.
Unfortunately, as well, and forwards will, no matter what, in terms of so much. I like watching Monday Night Football and talking about Kane and goals and assists. Like it's the whole world how many goals and assists he gets. But unfortunately, with forwards, it's primarily what you're judged on. Certain players like Roberto Firmino get away with it. You see the other parts of the game. Toney has been such a great link player for Brentford this year, but it's all judged on, particularly for the fantasy managers. At the end of the day, it's where's my fucking points, right? Basically, is where it's at. But I think he's done fine, mate. I think he's done fine. He should probably stop saying bad things about Brentford off the pitch as well. But we know most of it. The last time was jest, wasn't it? It was
honestly
taking the piss, wasn't it?
It really annoyed me, because everyone was like, "Oh, he's saying more bad things about the team," and it's like, no, he's talking to a bloke who didn't even know who Brentford were. I mean, he's not going to know who Ivan Toney is if he doesn't know who Brentford is.
Actually, it was reported as in he's slagging off Brentford again, and actually he was just being humble, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, nowhere exciting." Bear in mind he plays in the Premier League, so I'm pretty sure he's quite excited to play in the Premier League.
I just took it as he was being humble about himself and wasn't trying to act.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Big one, yeah.
But it did make me laugh.
Stop letting people put cameras in his face, though. Might be a good idea. Quickly, Tom, Eriksen or Mbeumo? You were buying one now because you were Mbeumo definitely last time we spoke to you. Now you've seen Christian play, haven't you?
I'm going to stay in Mbeumo, I think.
Okay,
he's been brilliant. I mean, he's still playing really well, and I think if anything, it'll add to his game having Eriksen behind with him.
Okay. Anything for the defensive assets to speak of? It's hard to make a case at the moment, isn't it? I think
Raya is a potential. He's 4.3, so he's dropped right down because he was injured. So
I think for those
not far away from Foster.
For those who will wild card in and have used the bench boost, I think I'd arguably paid a 0.2 more, but then you've got like the Bravka's got a little bit more, and he has got a double and some good fixtures coming up as well. Chris Cresswell or any of the defensive players, can we consider them? Or is it you shaking your head, aren't you?
I mean, Cresswell's 5.4. I mean, it's that price. You can't. He's a good player, but who are you going to put in at 5.4 from West Ham's defence? He ain't going to score a free kick like that every week.
No. I think at different times, Cresswell, but at the moment, there's Robertson, Trent, James, Cancelo, and Doherty. There's too much going on there, I think, at the moment to fit Cresswell in at his price is a bit too much at the moment, I think, unfortunately. But interesting one for the next couple, potentially. Where do you think you finished, Tom?
Where we are now, 14th.
And Chris, same question.
I'm going to say 7th.
But win the Europa League, yeah?
Yeah. 3-0.
I get the feeling you'd take 10th if you won the Europa League.
Yeah, I'd take no more points for the rest of the season if we won the Europa League. Yeah, definitely.
No, I think when it's said and done, whatever happens in that competition, I think you'll both be able to reflect on a very good season, actually, no matter. You're not going to finish any lower than 8th, Chris. And actually,
no, exactly.
To be honest, after last season, there was every chance it was going to dive quite badly. And the club's shown real good consistency. Yeah, and you very rarely have a bad game. And for a first season, Tom, I think you've great effort, mate. I agree with you. I think a couple of points and you'll get them.
Yeah.
And it's job done. And then get rid of the second season, then you can establish yourself. Because as you've seen, the second season can be
could be
harder.
interesting. Could be interesting.
Everyone knows what's coming with your second time round. Basically, we've seen that with Leeds and stuff this season. All right, cool. Thank you both so much, guys. Let's do predictions finally for Sunday. Tom,
1-0.
Chris,
I'm going to be optimistic and say 2-1 to West Ham, but I don't
good
believe
lad.
it.
I'm going to go 1-1 as well, because I just think psychologically it's not a great fixture for you in between the two Lyon games, to be honest, Chris. And I think that's where you've said, and everything that I've heard from other West Ham fans is that feels like the priority, and they've got some threat if you take your eye off the ball.
I'm just hoping they're still just so happy about beating Chelsea 4-1. Maybe
we will be.
It's that as well. They're on a high as well, so atmosphere will be great because they're peaking. By the way, Tom, what's the name of your stadium?
The Brentford Community Stadium.
Right, I've got a ticket in Gameweek 34. Have I got to call it that? Is there a shortened version?
No, that's it. At least it's not sponsored yet. At least we haven't got some
What do the fans call it? I'm going down to Brentford Community Stadium today.
I mean, it was meant to be called.
Do you call it the BCS or like?
It was meant to be called Lionel Road, I think, at one point because it's on Lionel Road. But
okay,
I think that's been. At the moment it's just Brentford Community Stadium, which is a bit shit, isn't it?
I hope when we come, we make it a messy day for you, mate. Boom, I'm here all week. Right, great. Tom, where can everyone follow you on Twitter?
I'm FPL Dummy Tom, and as James said, I will plug the podcast. I do a podcast every Monday with Cam called the FPL by Dummies, and you can follow us on Twitter as well.
And Chris, where can they follow you on Twitter, mate?
FPL_Sky Addict.
Good man. Thank you both so much. Next week's Clash of the Correspondents will be on Thursday, Southampton versus Arsenal, with Matt Samuel and Adam Pritchard ahead of the double for both in game week 33. But very best of luck for the weekend to Tom and to yourself, Chris, and good luck in Europe, mate. Cue music, please, man, child.